Oh, do people really want to hear what we have to say? Do they have real questions? Or are you making these questions up?
So, John, believe it or not, I didn't have to make up any of these questions. That doesn't mean that I'm going to answer all of them, because not all of them were appropriate. Shocker.
Oh, interesting. Is there an after hours Ask Us Anything session we're going to have to talk about?
Okay, John, you know that I love a good live TV moment. So I'm giving it to you right here. Do you see my brand new t-shirt? You know, I'm all into like these graphic tees lately.
Yeah, I've noticed they get delivered at least once a week to our house.
Okay, what does my new one say?
It says more cowbell.
I love it.
Yeah.
With a picture of Will Ferrell.
With a picture of Will Ferrell with the amazing perm and the beard and the cowbell and the glasses. It's one of the greatest SNL skits of all time.
One of my favorite. I think it has to be my favorite of all time.
Yeah. I just think that cast is so intriguing. I typically think about SNL cast, like if you are a teenager in your early 20s, like that's your cast. So if you were in the 90s, that's our cast. Will Ferrell, those individuals, those are the people. The people now, I have a hard time relating to the people who were in the 70s and 80s. Same thing. My cast is the Will Ferrell cast.
So I guess this is time when I should say welcome to the Paula Faris Show, or should I say the Paula and John Show, or the John and Paula Show for the next couple of episodes, because we are doing 2 Ask Us Anything episodes. We are digging into
do people really want to hear what we have to say? Do they have real questions? Or are you making these questions up for us to ask or answer? I don't think I'm that interesting. You're more interesting, but if people want to know what we have to say, then we'll get it.
So, John, believe it or not, I didn't have to make up any of these questions. That doesn't mean that I'm going to answer all of them, because not all of them were appropriate. Shocker.
Oh, interesting. Is there an after hours Ask Us Anything session we're going to have to talk about?
Most of the inappropriate questions came from our friends. So if that tells you anything.
So we can direct message those answers to them.
Oh, and I did. Don't you worry.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I did. So how are you feeling, John, honey? It's the summertime for us. Like our kids got out of school the second to last week in May. So like the week before Memorial Day. We are in the thick of our summer, but we know back in New York, we'd still be in school till the end of June. So how are you feeling? Kids home? I don't know.
I'm feeling good, but I did say to you today, and this is not made up, when are the kids going back? It's been 2 weeks, but I'm looking forward to August when they get back in school. Not that I don't love being around them. It's just a whole nother dynamic working from home and them being around and having to entertain them and feed them. And I like when they go and have their responsibilities outside of the house called school.
Right. When they have a little bit more structure. And I don't think that makes us bad parents to say, what is the countdown? Our kids go back August 1st. I feel like they're barely out of school, but we're definitely struggling with the work from home dynamic. Both are privileged, very lucky to work from home and do what we love in the comforts of our own home. But that does come with its own set of challenges when your kids are out of school. So one thing that has saved us, and we just finished it with the kids, and I feel like I kind of got hit by a truck. We did this Savor Your Summer free downloadable that I offer on Carey Media's website to help families really soak up the summer and remember the good parts about it, but to tee us up for success, because I know summer can really be draining and I can dread it because the work from home component, the kids don't have any structure. It can be really challenging. We're 2 weeks in. We already want them to go back to school. So we just did this Savor Your Summer guide. And John, I think that's when you told the kids you're ready for them to go back to school already. But what it does, it's a workbook, and I have it. If you're watching on YouTube, I'm going to put a link in the show notes. It's a free guide for you and your family to help you really ditch the overwhelm and rest in the rhythms of your summer. So I'm just going to give you guys a quick overview of the guide, and hopefully you can download it. Again, it is a total free resource for parents, especially working moms. But what we did, the first step was we really set the scene, and all 5 of us went around and we talked about what we wanted our summer to look like. Like, what would a fun summer look like? And for me, I said, I want to be on the water more. I want to read. I want to garden. I want to eat well. And I want to lift. John, you had your own idea of what you want your summer to look like besides sending the kids back to school. Do you remember some of those?
I wanted to get some golf rounds in because the summer is beautiful here. I definitely want to be outside as much as possible, exercise, eat healthy, some quality time with you as well.
Oh, you did say that.
I did say that.
And the kids, like, they want to read. Caroline says she wants to tan. She wants to hang with her friends. She wants to shop. She wants to work out. The boys want to be with their friends. They want to play basketball and work out, and they want to go whitewater rafting. So, like, sitting down, that's the first step, is really like setting the expectation of what you want your summer to look like, because you don't want to get to the end of the summer and say, I didn't really do anything I wanted to do. So it helps you set yourself up and everybody in your family up for success. I think the total steps there are, let me see, actually, I should know this since I wrote the guide, 7 steps. But one of the other steps that's really important that we just did is the 5 things. Before you talk about screen time, before the kids get to really do anything that they look forward to, leave the house, make sure you have your 5 things done. And so the kids wrote down their 5 things, what they have to have done before they leave the house, before they have screen time. Things like make your bed, read, do the dishes, pick up the mail, take the trash to the dump because we don't have a trash service here, blow off the leaves, take the dog for a walk, stuff like that. So that's taped to our calendar. The kids now know their 5 things. What really has saved me, the meal rhythms, because dinner is the biggest pain in my hiney. You know that, John.
Mine as well.
Yes. So every day we've come up with a theme. Okay. And you stick to that theme. So you're not thinking of like, it just gives you some really strict guardrails. And our kids are taking 2 nights out of the week to cook dinner. And it doesn't have to be anything crazy. So do you remember what?
Not sure what that's going to taste like either, but we'll give it a shot.
You had a great idea. Monday, we have come up with, what is it called, John? Every Monday, this is what we're having for dinner.
Bowl night. So anything in a bowl.
Okay.
Could be a healthy salad, could be some sort of chicken bowl, meat bowl, anything in a bowl.
Can I pick up Chick-fil-A and put it in a bowl and say that that's dinner?
I mean, if you want to, I think that's an option, but probably doesn't fall within the rules.
Have your kids make dinner, even if they're younger, have them participate in it or come up with a theme. Okay. So our boys are always going to do some sort of taco on Tuesday, whether it's chicken or beef. Caroline is going to just take over dinner every Wednesday.
It's Caroline Wednesday.
Caroline Wednesday. Thursdays are chicken. Fridays, pizza. Saturday, we grill. Sunday, it's Chinese and leftovers. So you get the idea. And again, there's 7 steps to this guide. I'm going to link to it, but at a free resource for working moms and parents to help you really kind of enjoy your summer. So I feel a little better going into our summer now that we got that out of the way.
Yeah, we're being a little proactive about what we want it to look like. And you got to be intentional and you got to talk about what you want to accomplish. Yeah. It doesn't just randomly happen where you have a successful summer or an organized summer or a fun summer.
Right.
We're sitting down and talking about it, and now we're going to go out and try to execute.
I think we need more cowbell. That's what we need right now.
Always. You can never have enough cowbell.
Okay, so this is a Ask Us Anything couple of episodes. We have to do 2 because you guys had so many questions. Again, none of them were made up. Many were inappropriate. Those were from our friends. I DM'd you the equally inappropriate response to all of our friends that have asked us funny, inappropriate things. But John, because you said mailbag,
yes,
you didn't just call this an Ask Us Anything or an Ask Me Anything. You said mailbag, which I feel like is very 1990.
Yeah, I like it.
So what I did is I'm giving you the control. You're in the driver's seat. I have cut out and in 2 envelopes, okay, all of the questions. You will find them right now on your desk. Ooh, surprise. Another great moment. What do they say? Hold them up.
One says serious-ish, and one says serious-ish, and one says fun-ish.
Okay, so one envelope is the questions that are a little more serious-ish, and the other envelope is questions that are a little more fun-ish.
What do we want to hit first, or do we want to go back and forth?
You're the driver. You do whatever you want, okay? Right. But we got to get through all of these. Maybe we go back and forth. We don't do all the serious, all the fun. Maybe we go serious, fun, whatever. But we have to answer all of them.
Okay. Well, let's start with a serious one. And this is from Devlu94. Did you want the same number of children when you got married? I always wanted 4. Because I'm the youngest of 4. I don't know if that's a narcissistic answer, but you kind of gravitate towards what you're from. We tried to have more. I've been pretty open. I've had 4 miscarriages, 3 in my 40s, but I'm 48. We're done. I think we're done. John, yeah, I wanted to have multiple. I didn't want to just have 1 kid. I wanted to have 3, 4. I had 3 in my family, but 4 is an even number, and the more the merrier.
I think big families are great. They're beautiful chaos. But the real question is, are we done?
I think we're done.
As I have my estrogen patch,
Yeah,
my progesterone patch on.
I don't
right now,
mind
'cause I'm going through
trying.
perimenopause. I'm kind of messed up. Like if I could have a healthy baby tomorrow at 48, I would.
Oh, I know
Is
you
there
would.
something wrong with me? I've been having
There
weird
is.
dreams
Yeah.
about pregnancy, but
Yeah.
I do think that the shop is closed. I think God's made it pretty clear that nothing else is going to come out of my body, a child. I've had 3 of those miscarriages in my 40s, but I would be open to adopting. I think you and I are on different pages with that though.
Yeah. So, all right, here's another question.
So I guess John didn't want to weigh in on that last part. Okay, go ahead. Next question. You're the driver.
This is from Allie S. How do you find or make time for each other since it seems you're so present for your kids?
Well, I think we realized it doesn't have to be anything big or ornate. It might be coffee in the morning. That's one of my favorite things to do is just sit outside on the back patio or the back deck and have our morning coffee before the kids have gotten up and just talk for 10 minutes or going on a walk with you. Yeah. And I know that you kind of enjoy that side by side because men don't like the eye to eye contact. It's a little intimidating. So it doesn't have to be, we go out on a date night every single week. We just try to do something intentional every day. That's not always about the kids, but if we do need to get caught up, we do. But we're trying to go on a vacation, like just an overnight. Yeah. That we're not good at that, I will say.
No, I don't think we're very good at that. I don't think we necessarily need it right now because sometimes just having that 30 minutes, that hour, just alone, you and I, we're pretty simple people. We don't need lavish concerts and elaborate dinners to make us feel romance for one another. I just like to be in tune with you and understand what's going on in your life. And we are able to connect better, I think, in just some of those morning coffees, lunches out at a local restaurant, taking a walk, just doing a little work around the house.
And I will say, when you have really young kids, like you can't see the forest from the trees, and like by 8 o'clock, you want to go to bed, or if anybody asks you, what do you do, in your downtime? I remember those days, I just wanted to stare at a wall and do nothing. And I was so exhausted. It is hard. It's really difficult to carve out time when the kids are so young, but it is important. But I guess my advice, or just from our perspective, it doesn't have to be anything fancy or ornate. It might be 10 minutes each day. It might be a coffee. It might be first 10 minutes the kids are in bed. We're going to go put our phones away and we're going to just go connect. Maybe it's a glass of wine in the evening or a whiskey if you're a whiskey guy, or bourbon. So it doesn't have to be anything real pricey or elaborate to really have a great connection, but just be intentional. I don't think we were always good at making time for one another, but the kids are older, so it is easier in some capacities. But the kids need to know before they were around, it was just the two of you, and you've got to invest in that relationship. That's something I've learned from couples that are, in a stage ahead of us, John.
Yeah. Empty nesters.
Our kids are going to be out of the house in bad math. 8 years.
7 years, yeah.
If they don't end up living in our basement, but they'll be out of the house in 7, 8 years. Are we going to get to that point and say, I don't even know you, I don't have anything in common with you? So
I hope not.
Just like that daily maintenance, and it can be something real small. Just try to carve some time out. So,
all right, last serious one, and then we'll jump to some fun ones. This is from Petra. One thing you will tell all your kids when they go off to college. I can lead this one.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm going to tell them to go become the person that they've been called to be. That's the most important thing. I want them to find who they are. I want them to walk into their gifts and their talents and really take that next step. We are not going to be around them all the time, being able to guide them and direct them, but I want them to see the big picture and see who they will ultimately want to become, and then just go be that person.
That's good. I don't know if our kids, all of them, are going to go to college, and that's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, trade school is a great option.
They're going to go off eventually. They're going to go off somewhere.
I hope so. I hope they leave the house at some point. But then I cry at the same moment because I have mixed feelings about that. It's so tough. Like, you want them to fly, but they don't need you anymore, but you want to be needed. It's such a weird paradox of emotions. My advice to our kids when they leave the house, I love what you said about find who you're meant to be, not what you were created to do, because the being and the doing are so different. I want my kids to feel permission, and I want them to almost be excited about making mistakes and failing, because I think they're going to learn the most from their failures and their quote unquote mistakes than they will from their successes. So I want my kids to take risks, to go for it, knowing that they're going to learn more from that and that they'll never have to deal with the regret of not going for something. So I just want them to try new things, give themselves lots of grace, and give everybody around them grace. And whatever they decide to do, I don't care, just as long as I know that they're a good human being. And like you said, John, we have done our job as parents and really fostered the things that matter most, who they were created to be, what their unique talents are, the kind of person that we're sending into the world. I don't want to send a total douchebag into the world. Okay.
We're going to do our best not to. We're going to try.
I want my kids to be really good humans. When people give us compliments, sure, the accolades are great, the academic accolades or the athletic. I want people to compliment my kids because they're respectful or they're kind or they advocated for somebody. Like, that's what I'm trying to be intentional about, even though it's really hard to, to not just praise the other accolades. So, but if we do our job well, we will have raised really great humans that are ready to go shine their light, do their thing in the world, and take risks.
Yeah. Okay. This is from the Funnish one. Not sure how much fun this one is, but
it's a funnish question.
Funnish question. Okay. Yeah. This is from Sue. How did you know Paula was the one?
How's that not fun?
I guess that's fun, but it seems a little serious too. It's a fun and serious question.
Okay. Oh, I want to know this. I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
I think while we were dating, it got to the point where I started thinking about what would my life be if I didn't have Paul in my life? What if I screwed this thing up? What if I did something stupid? What if she decided to go date somebody else? And it's like, I don't like that version of my life. I started thinking of, okay, if I screw this up, I'm going to have to go find a different Paula. And I didn't think there was anybody who fit well with me. And that's pretty much why I'm with you still today, because I think my life is better with you than without you.
And I broke up with you too. And I was I'm done. But I honestly felt like, and we got married young. We were 24, but I broke up with you when we were 23. And I was like, we'd been together 3 years at that point. And at some point you're like, okay, either we're going to be life partners or we're not. And I felt like we needed to take it to the next level.
And I wanted to keep it as casual for as long as possible. Like, that was my goal. Can we keep this till 30? This would be great. But
so basically you don't want our daughter to date who you were in college, right? That guy, like,
yeah, I want her to date the advanced version of me, the 3 years after we met version of me.
I will say though, we were kind of like, I robbed the cradle a little bit. John was 2 grades younger than I was. I was a senior and he was a sophomore in college when we started dating. And I just felt like I was always a stage ahead. And girls naturally are a stage ahead. We heard David Thomas in those 2 fantastic episodes, if you haven't checked them out, about relating to tween and teen boys. And he says boys aren't done developing till they're 25. Girls are pretty much done at 18, 19. So I felt like maturation wise, development wise, I was always several years ahead of you. And I wanted you to do your thing. You were, just graduating college but I'd been out of college already for a couple of years. I was ready to find out who I was. I was ready to take other steps. And like everybody that went to our college got married really young. And I was like, okay, am I dating just to date this guy? Or are we going to get more serious? So I broke up with you, not as an ultimatum. It was just, I felt like you were at a different place in life than I was. And that was okay. Mm-hmm. But then you came crawling back. And I think it's one of the only times I've seen you cry. Truly.
Yeah. Well, to answer my question,
you have it.
I started thinking about my life without you and I didn't like what it looked like. So, all right, next question. This is from Dave P. And he is referencing the university that we went to. He says, Cedarville now has a Panda Express and Chick-fil-A on campus. How does this make you feel?
A little jealous, but I think that freshman 15 may have been the freshman 50. I gained so much weight in my freshman year and it never came on.
It was the shepherd's pie. Chuck's had what was your go-to?
No, it was the steak and chicken finger night. Ooh, Chuck's was the name of
the cafeteria.
The cafeteria, Chuck's. And the food was actually really good. I remember when I visited Cedarville, which is a small liberal arts Christian school in Ohio, because my dad wouldn't let me attend the University of Michigan because he thought I would get in too much trouble, and he's not wrong. God rest his soul, Daddy, I love you. But the food was fantastic at Chuck's at Cedarville. So, but I'm kind of relieved because I really would have put on even more weight than I did. That freshman 15 would have been freshman 5-0.
Okay, here's another funnish question, and then we'll go back to the serious-ish questions. Carol E., will you be on The View again? Do you miss NYC, New York City?
Oh, John, you and I have talked about this. I think we both have a new appreciation for New York City. I love going back there because I don't live there anymore. For a lot of people that live in New York City, it just becomes their home. They don't take advantage of all the things that the wonderful city has to offer because you're going into the city and then you're leaving to get back home if you live in the suburbs. So I love to go to New York City now. And I think I have a greater appreciation and a greater love because I'm a tourist. I can just dip in and I can dip out and I don't have to deal with all the ongoing ruckus on a daily basis, which I think can sometimes make the city unenjoyable. But will I ever be on The View again? Absolutely, but not as a permanent co-host. But I will say, for as bad of a rap as The View sometimes gets, since I left TV news in 2020, they have been the most gracious. Anytime I've had a project, whether it was a kid's book or You Don't Have to Carry It All, which was my trade book that came out in March of 2023, or when I launched Carry to advocate for working moms, every single time they have been not only gracious, but overwhelmingly generous with the time and the opportunity and the platform. They're like, anytime you want to come back, you come back. So yes, I'll be back on to talk about other things that are going on. As a permanent co-host, no, because I don't want to live in New York City again.
Well, what I miss about New York City is the energy you feel just by being in the city, the pace. I'm a fast-paced individual. I like to do things quick. I like the efficiency of everything that goes on in the city. And I miss the food. The food is very international. There's not just one or two options. There's hundreds of options, and you can eat something different each and every day. And it can have a different ethnic background to it, which I like trying things from other countries that are very unique and very healthy. So that's some of the things that I miss.
Right.
But I still travel. I get back to New York a couple times a year, and then I'm in a lot of major metropolitan cities just for work. So I like going more of a strategic 2-3 days and then back home.
That's good. And, now that we live in South Carolina, there are so many wonderful things about this area. The cost of living, the quality of life, the people are fantastic, the weather, the fact that we can both work from home and be real present with the kids who, by the way, I don't know where they are right now, but they're not knocking on the door. I do miss the food and I miss some of the culture, but it's like with every decision you gain something and then you give it up. Like our gains here, what we have gained far outweigh, we don't have a lot of food options or there's not a ton of culture. So really happy with where we are, but it's fun to go back.
We're going back to the Siri-ish questions. And this is from Sonia. Can we talk about a toxic job environment and when you know to leave?
Well, sometimes they make the decision for you.
Yep.
You sound like you want to jump in, John.
No, I've always defined successful work environments or just successful people in general. They usually have two things. They love what they do and they love who they do it with. If they love the people they work with, but they don't love what they do, they're not going to be as successful. If they love what they do and not the people they work with, they're not going to be successful. So if you can find those two things, no matter what it is, whether you're in the medical field, whether you're in sales, whether you're in a teacher, whatever that may be, if you love what you do and you love who you do it with, then it's not going to be a toxic environment. And if you feel like you're in a toxic environment, do whatever you can to get out of there, because that's just going to suck life out of your soul. And it's probably not going to get better. Usually a toxic situation doesn't just get fixed overnight. It's going to take a lot of time, or for you to move, or whoever's making that environment toxic for them to move.
Yeah. I will say this. We need to define what is toxic, because this generation thinks toxic is they were tough on me or somebody yelled at me in a meeting. That's not toxic. Okay. A toxic work environment is like my very first job in TV, when one of my bosses told me that A, women didn't belong in sports. This is when I was sports reporting. And he told me, B, I wouldn't make it unless I showed my boobs. Okay, that's a toxic work environment. You want to be respected, right? But I think we have to, first of all, define what toxic is. I know what it is. I know what it isn't. But a situation that's tough isn't necessarily toxic. Toxic is someone's being completely inappropriate. And what is inappropriate, right? You have to define that too. My situation at ABC wasn't toxic by any stretch of the imagination. It wasn't great towards the end, but it wasn't toxic. Even though there were some toxic people there. But I think that's just in general, sometimes you just have to put your big girl pants and big boy pants on. And, for me, when I left that first toxic situation, my first job in TV, my mentality was, I want to be stronger because of it. But also make sure that it's better after I leave. So if it's toxic, you got to get out of there, but also do the right thing and make sure that it's better for the people that are still there. And that might be meeting with HR on your way out or writing a letter. Try not to leave it how you found it.
Yeah.
So that's a good question. It's a tough one to really address.
All righty. Another serious question from Sarah P. Have you dealt with family not agreeing with the way you raise your kids? Our oldest is almost 11 and we have an ongoing judgment from day one.
I hear this a lot from a lot of different families. We've had situations. I remember vividly when I was nursing one of our kids, and when I was nursing, I nursed all three of them. I was lucky enough to be able to do that, but I didn't always cover myself up. But I was it's just a boob. It's nothing sexual. And I remember one of my family members was like, you need to cover up when you're doing that. And I'm like, do you want me to go to the bathroom? I'm nursing my kid. There can't be anything more natural about that. For us, everybody in our family is raising their kids in a different way. Mm-hmm. And it's all different.
Yeah.
I don't agree with some of it. Some of them don't agree with how we're raising our kids. I just think you have to have a healthy respect for one another. And you have to be okay that you're not going to be on the same page. If you're going to be constantly frustrated, they have to agree with me, you're going to set yourself up for disappointment and heartache because they're never going to be in full agreement with how you're raising your kids. There are things that I do that I know my sisters don't love, but there are things that they do that I don't love. And my brother doesn't have any children, but he's a great uncle. But don't let that get in the way of your relationship. And if you feel judgment, I don't know, maybe that's real, maybe that's perceived. Try not to get hung up in it and not to destroy the relationship because family's so important. That connection is so important. I know there have been times with my siblings, we haven't talked for months sometimes because we've gone through hard times. And is the relationship valuable enough to keep fighting for it? Try not to focus on some of those little things because they're not going to agree with everything you're doing and you're not going to agree with everything they're doing. And that's okay.
Yeah. My opinion is, I'm going to raise our kids. We're going to raise our kids the way we think and we believe is the best. And I'm not going to try to raise my nieces or nephews or grandkids in the future because that is the parent's job to do, not somebody else's. And if I don't judge them, they're not going to judge me, hopefully. Mm-hmm. And if they do judge me, I just don't care. Paula, you and I have been given these 3 kids and we're going to do our best to raise them. And I'm not going to let outside influences, even if it is family, affect what we believe is right.
Right. But we do want them to be part of our kids' lives, and to really be part of that village and to help raise them to some degree. I think family has to stick together. When I went to Lebanon, where my dad's from, I was really struck by how it was all about family. They all live in the same village. The apartments have rebar on the top of the roof waiting for the next family member to move in a level above because they do life together. They're interdependent. We've gotten away from that interdependency where we have family living with us or on top of us, and we rely on one another. So I'd love to get back to that in some capacity. And going back to Lebanon, it was back in 2019, the year my dad died. We went back to his, the home village in Lebanon, just outside of Beirut. And it was so beautiful to see how my family there is. It's literally all about family. All about family. They get upset if you don't ask for help. There were 12 of us from America that went to visit. I think I told you this story, John. One of my cousins was wearing a really cute shirt. Her name was Gita. And I said, Gita, I like your shirt. She's like, do you want? I'm like, no, I just was complimenting your t-shirt. And she doesn't have a lot. They don't have a lot, but family is everything to them.
All right, here's a question for you, Paula. It's from Monica P.
Okay.
She needs a new book recommendation. She read The Women based on your recommendation.
Oh my gosh, that book, one of my top 3 historical fiction books ever by Kristen Hanna, The Women. You have to read it if you haven't. It's an account of the nurses in Vietnam who works the unsung heroes. But it's such a beautiful book. Kristen Hanna said she'd been working on it for 30 years. And I was hesitant to read a book about Vietnam because I'm like, do I really want to go there? But it was so well done. Really, really well done. But if you haven't read it, one of my all-time favorites, I'm a thriller girl, like not Michael Jackson thriller, but I love thrillers, thriller fiction. And one of my favorite all-time books is called The Silent Patient. I can't remember the last name of the author. It's Alex Michaelides. I don't know how to say it, but The Silent Patient is literally one of the best books I've ever read. Like the last page, I had no idea that this was coming. I love a book where the last page is like, what? So that's a really good book, The Silent Patient.
Here's a question, and this is for both of us. I'll answer it first. Susan wants to know, what is the best thing about being married to each other? So I'll take this one. I can say this very honestly. You make me a better person. And I've got to a point in my life where I do not want to surround myself with people who are not pushing me to be a better version of myself. There's plenty of people who want to pull you down, but you've always pushed me to be a better version, whether it's a husband, whether it's somebody in my job, my career, health, whatever it may be, a leader. You're always pushing me to be a better person. And that's one of my favorite parts about being married to you.
I'm pushy is what you're saying.
You're pushy, but in a good way. Like sometimes the delivery isn't always great, but the intention is. I believe that you really want what's best and you want
yes.
what's for me.
I always have good intentions, but my mouth gets in the way sometimes and I just speak before I think. What do I love most about being with you? I would say just the companionship. I feel like we are so great together and we're making an impact together. That's one of the things. And I know you have my back, right?
Yeah.
But I feel like the things that we can do together are so much greater, exponentially greater than if we were to try to do anything by ourselves. I love that we're creating this life, that we've created a family, that we're trying to create an impact. We have so many of the same passions, when it comes to our community and really supporting our community and so many of these kids that are underserved. That's what gets me excited is we have so many similar passions and we're making such an impact together. But to know that you've got my back and to be with somebody who's just a great cheerleader, who's always seen the best in me, even when I wasn't so lovable, who's dreamt for me when I didn't have the courage or the vision to dream. You're the reason I got into broadcasting to begin with. You saw that dream before I not only saw it, but before I even believed it. So being with somebody that believes in you enough to help you, to push you to be your best version. That's what there's a lot of things I love.
Yeah. A good partnership should always have the equation 1 + 1 = 3. If it doesn't, then it's just not a good partnership because we need to be more together than we are individually.
And you make me laugh. You help remind me that I shouldn't take myself too seriously. And I think you're really great with that. And you buy me fountain drinks.
I do, because I know that's one of your love languages.
We had so much fun with you guys. That ends part 1 of our Ask Us Anything. Part 2 is coming up next week, where we will answer your questions about how we made the transition from New York City to South Carolina, whether we'd ever move back to the Midwest. We need some advice from you guys on how we should spend our 25th anniversary, which is coming up in a little over a year. And then also how we have managed to get through some tough times and how we disagree in a healthy and respectful way most of the time. Again, we'll do our best to answer all of those. By the way, put all of the links in the show notes to our Savor Summer Guide to really help you enjoy your summer, especially if you're working from home or you're still working and you're trying to manage the kids out of school, no schedules. That's a free downloadable that's going to be in the show notes. Plus, if any of you are demented like me and love a graphic tee, if you want the more cowbell tee, I have linked to that in the show notes as well. Look forward to seeing you guys next week. If you could write a review, that would mean so much. It really encourages Apple and Spotify to promote the show so we can keep these conversations going. But if you could take a couple minutes, maybe even 60 seconds out of your day to do that, that would mean the world. And we will keep talking about it and see you next week for part 2. I know you guys thought you were done with me, but not quite yet. I have one more thing to tell you about. If you're watching on YouTube or you're listening on your favorite podcast platform, don't forget to subscribe to the show. I don't want you to miss a single beat or a single conversation. And remember, my DMs are always open. Tell me what you want to talk about.